Well, here I am again, and that was me checking that the microphone is on. Hi, how are you doing today? Oh, me? Oh, thanks for asking. Honestly, today's not very good. Hasn't been the worst day I've had in forever, but it is the first cloudy day, purely cloudy, where there wasn't like suddenly a ray of sunshine, because we've gotten a handful of those the past couple weeks, where there's some rain throughout the day, but there's some beautiful sun in, in the middle of it all. But my brain doesn't adapt well to a purely cloudy day like today was. And working in customer service, you remember, oh, that's right, other people don't react well to that either. People at my work weren't nice today. And they weren't, I would say none of them were outright terrible, like nobody threw a screaming fit at me or anything like that. But it just comes with the territory. Just some days, people's overall mood is deflated. I think if we had consistently rainy, cloudy days for a stretch of time, people's mood would be more or less level. Like maybe not up here, but it would just be like, maybe it'd be around this level. But when it is up here, when you suddenly get, it's like a withdrawal from the sun. You get sun withdrawals and your mood just, and it was just, people were just short today, like in their questions and responding to the questions that I have to ask them when I check them in. They just didn't, they were not having it. And the more off-putting thing about it is that most of them seem like nice people overall. You know, when people give you a vibe like they're just not nice to anybody ever, they're just very unkind. None of these people seemed that way. I very much got the impression that this person is in a particularly bad mood for them today. So, I already have a complicated relationship with them because I see the good in them and I can see that they're choosing not to give that goodness to me. I like how my friend put it, my coworker. She just says, because she was also in customer service, she was a person who, she was the main client care coordinator at her last job, so she was the person who reached out to them, was the first person to talk to the new customers. And she says, if you're a mean person, just be a mean person. If you're a nice person, just be a nice person. But don't give me this back and forth toxic, sometimes I'm nice, sometimes I'm really mean, and you never know when it's gonna like flip on the turn of a dime. Just decide, okay? We want consistency, even if the consistency is bad. But yeah, people just very, very weird. People getting really upset really quickly over very, very small things. But I mean, I also understand it's a healthcare environment, and you haven't had the best day probably when you are going to the doctor. And there's a lot at stake with your visit today. A lot more at stake than with any other previous customer service job that I've had. And the price is a lot higher. It's probably the most that you pay for anything in your life, healthcare. Actually, that'd be really interesting. I've never seen a full, complete deduction, like somebody breaking down everything that you're going to pay money for and what the estimate is for all those things. But I'd say healthcare is really, really high up there if it is not actually the top. Anything else going on? Yeah, yesterday we filmed, me and my Holy Sheet crew. Holy Sheet Productions is my little film company. Well, it's my friend Mike's. I mean, he started it way before he ever met me, but with me, we are taking it a step further, coming very, very soon. I'm really excited to start linking those videos down in my description, the new stuff that we make. Yesterday, we filmed a comedy sketch, and I got 2 different people to act in it. I was the person who got different actors on board, and that it feels really cool being a recruiter. Being like, hey, you wanna be a part of this fun little thing, and we'll benefit from you being there, and you'll have some fun doing it, and you'll also have some pretty high quality footage of yourself doing some funny stuff you can show people, because you're trying to be an actor. And I love when I find people from different places, from different avenues in my life. I very much, like we all do, we sort of compartmentalize people, put them in the group of this is how I met this person. And one of them is a guy I knew from college, and another one is a guy that I knew from my acting class. And both are very, very different, and they both brought a little special something of their own to the filming yesterday. And I don't know, it was just really, really lovely. I'm going to quote Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor when he said, Lex Luthor Jr. when he says to Clark Kent and what is that other guy's name? Bruce Wayne. I almost called him Bruce Banner, and then I would have been eaten alive by DC fans someday when they found this video. But yeah, Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent, he's like, I love it. I love bringing people together. Man, I think that Jesse Eisenberg got way too much hate for that role. Was it bad casting? Yes. But what is Jesse Eisenberg gonna say when he gets offered a huge role in a major comic book movie? No, I don't think I fit that role, and so I don't fit the classic interpretation of it, so therefore do not give me this part. I decline. Like, I mean, okay, maybe you could say if he had the utmost respect for the comics, he would have realized he wasn't right for the role. Okay, well, they would have just given, they had already written the script, they would have just given the role of snobby little prep butthead Lex Luthor to somebody else. You know, somebody else who could have done it just as well. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who that could have been. I don't think anybody Jesse Eisenberg's quite like Jesse Eisenberg's. I watched this movie recently called Unaccompanied Minors. That's about, unaccompanied minors, and they're trapped at an airport overnight. It's a Christmas movie I really, really love, and it always just fills my heart with joy because I first saw it when I was a little kid, and it's not a good movie. Like, it's not a good movie. I don't really recommend it if you didn't grow up with it. It's not a good movie, but also I do kind of recommend it because it's a movie I like, and if you like me, you'll see little glimpses of why I like it if you watch it. But there's a kid in there who looks a lot like Jesse Eisenberg and kind of has the same voice and mannerisms and everything like that. But he's not Jesse Eisenberg, and that actor has pretty much disappeared. That kid actor. I wanted to see him make a comeback someday. The only other thing I ever saw him in was this like KFC commercial, pretty shortly after that movie. So his career kind of took a tumble pretty quickly. Just trying to think if there's anything I want to clear out of here. Oh yeah, I went to this lovely Butte that my friend takes me to. It's one of those places that you only ever go with one friend. It's this beautiful. I don't know exactly. I mean, it's a butte. Like I'm having a hard time describing it though. But it's surrounded by water. It's a big cliff essentially. It's like a giant cliff, and you go very far in any direction, you come across the water. You come across this great big lake, and right next to the lake there's this train track with a train that comes by every once in a while, and you can go up super high on this thing, and it's not a difficult hike, but it's sort of, you can pick your own challenge. There are easy walks, but there are harder ways to get up there if you really want to. It's a big place for rock climbers. And it was just an absolutely gorgeous day that I had out there with my friend and his other friend that he's known since childhood, who's a person that I always just love having around. We've never gotten the closest, but it's always just fun when that person is there with us. It's really great. And we went up really high and we looked down and we could see the tops of birds. I love when I can see the top of a bird flying. That's such a weird sensation. It reminds me of that Joni Mitchell song, which was actually inspired by my favorite book, Henderson the Rain King. She says, I've looked at clouds from both sides now, and I realize I don't understand them at all. And I sat by the edge of one of these cliffs, and I just meditated for a while, and it was so cool having my eyes closed and just sitting still with somewhere in the back of my thought, like, I am very close to a situation where I would be dead. Like, there's no question about it. The place where I was falling was maybe a 5 or 6 story drop. I would be dead if I slipped somehow. And somehow I just sat there and found my peace anyway. And I think that's really the magic of meditation in general, even when you're not literally right next to your death. You got all this stuff going on around you, and you are calmly right here. Not even necessarily calmly, you just are. You just are. You somehow manage to not be all these externals around you, feelings and events and other people. You're just you. All right, speaking of poignant stuff that you could overanalyze and think you're being really smart about, I am going to talk about some lyrics that I really love today. There's no real particular order that I'm going to say these in, and there's no real method to how I chose these. I just wanted to list 5 lyrics that I really love and, just talk about them. And so I just picked 5, and next time I'll pick 5 more at complete random. And no more stalling, let's just hop into it. Because lyrics are just, I think that they just mean so much to me because I write songs with lyrics. And I'm not good at composing melodies, but I can hecka write lyrics. And so I have such admiration and jealousy for people who are already really good at that craft, because it's something I always feel like I'm mastering. But everybody who's in any sort of art form is mastering it. Anyway, the very first one is from a song called Ugly Kid by a rapper named Hobo Johnson, who I really love. The internet kind of likes to bully him a little bit because he is very intentionally, but he is very uncomfortable. Like he can be a really uncomfortable presence to listen to. But personally, I find most of his discomfort that he's expressing to be extremely relatable. And it feels very purposeful too. It's not like he's trying to be some cool suave guy, but is just being awkward. Like those island boys or whatever. He is just very, he just expresses feelings in a way that's very honest and blunt, in a way that's a little bit comparable, in my opinion, to the Smiths, about how Morrissey can just say something in a very blunt way and it's still an original way of saying that very blunt thing. And he says in Ugly Kid, the very opening line, he just says, "But I'm an ugly kid, I'm ugly enough to not want to exist." And that's exactly a perfect example of what I'm just talking about. I'm ugly enough to not want to exist. That's just the perfect phrasing. I mean, I've talked about in the video My Face, which was my very first hour-long video, that I still think is one of the best videos I've made on here so far in this hour challenge I'm doing. I have had real struggles in my whole adulthood with feeling ugly, with feeling very, very ugly, with feeling very, very physically undesirable. And I mean, my brain really bullies me into saying that, like, yeah, nothing about your personality being funny or anything like that matters. Which is not true at all in terms of attraction. That stuff is, what they tell me is that it's way more important. I haven't fully allowed myself to believe that. But, yeah, I mean, I just thought for so long that I was just a horribly disgusting person, and it was so purely physical. Now, in the song, he does also talk about how he finds his personality to be ugly, and I mean, that's something I can relate to also at times. But it's more the fact that he can just label himself, but I'm just an ugly kid. But I'm an ugly kid. As a whole, complete package, whether you're talking about my physicality or my personality, I'm just ugly. And because I'm ugly, I do not want to exist. In college, I literally felt like that. I literally told myself that it did not matter what I accomplished in this world, how many people I got to like me, if I wasn't desirable in the pure, raw, sexual, just like physical sense, then I was not worthy of existing. Or like it would be easier to die than to be an ugly person in this world. Yeah, I'm ugly enough to not want to exist. You know, I heard that in 2019. When I first heard Hobo Johnson, I got a big creativity crush on him because we're very similar in a lot of the ways that we write music. We go on long, speechy non sequiturs in the middle of our raps, and we can sometimes both make songs that seem like they're intentionally there to make you angry as an audience member. And one of the places where I got a creative crush on him was he just put such, he just put such a fine point on it. is just beautiful. I'm ugly enough to not want to exist. There's something that I also like about the fact that he says, I'm an ugly kid instead of I am an ugly man. Because, I mean, first of all, when he made that, he was like 24. And I know that because we're the same age. He's a couple months older than me. He was 24. And, I mean, at that age, you feel like a child anyway, unless, I don't know, you feel wise beyond your years, but I certainly don't. But there's something just more demeaning and, degrading about the label that you give yourself when you think of yourself as a child. Especially when you get into your 20s and the women that you have a crush on, I mean, a lot of them very much, this is my problem, I see women as adults and myself as a child. Even though that's not even the case most of the time. I mean, but there are even, I've gone on dates with women who were even younger than me, like a couple years, and I still feel like I'm younger than them. I still feel like I'm immature. And I think it has something to do with the fact that dating seems like something that's just this big, meant for bigger, better people kind of thing. And being in relationships and committing to people and that kind of stuff. It feels like something that's still beyond me, even though I'm 26. And yeah, I do feel like a kid a lot of the time. Even when I'm interacting with people who are literal children, sometimes I feel like they've got more things figured out than I do, because I'm not a real adult. A real adult would have his stuff figured out. And because I don't, that means that I am a kid. An ugly kid at that. Ugliness is just, it's surprisingly something that's not really, I mean, it is addressed in some song lyrics, but not in anything that's really very mainstream. Those feelings of being ugly, they kind of want to keep that off the radio, I think, because they want you to listen to those things and sort of see yourself in that position. And not a lot of people, they figure, really want to feel ugly. I'm just trying to think if there's any like major pop song. I'll think of it before the next video if there are any others. But yeah, and Ugly Kid is just, I mean, Hobo Johnson's an underground hip hop artist, so it's not a surprise that that's where I'd have to turn to find some real honest lyrics about feeling ugly. But that's what it is. That song really meant a lot to me this past year. The next one is from a very new song, just big smash hit this past year, Industry Baby by Lil Nas X, featuring Jack Harlow. And his whole thing is that, well, the line that I love is, "You was never really rooting for me anyway." And it's a little bit hard to articulate why that hit me so hard, why that resonates with me so much. You was never really rooting for me anyway. I mean, Lil Nas X got really famous from his meme song, and he came out as gay in the midst of it. And I don't think people expected him to really embrace that part of his personality as strongly as he has with his two very big and very right-wing, angering music videos for both Montero and Industry Baby. And I like the song Montero too. It's a fun song. It's got a cool instrumental and everything like that. I don't really relate to the narrative that he's telling because I am a heterosexual man. I think it's awesome that he's willing to put himself out there in such a bold, like, I'm not asking for any sympathy kind of way. It's really, really neat what he's doing right now. But I'm sure that he already feels like he's disappointing some people by this image that he's creating, even though he hasn't even been in the main public eye for that long. Going on 3 years, I guess, but he only had 2 real big musical projects so far. And I'm sure that a lot of people he quickly alienated some of his audience who are not about seeing, you know, the kind of imagery that you're seeing in his music videos and the topics that he discusses in Montero. But the thing is, that means that those people were not really rooting for him. If they aren't willing to accept the fact that he's gay, they're not really willing to accept him. And I hear people say, like, I mean, you can do that stuff, but like, just keep it out of my face, you know? As if like, gay people are just like putting their homosexuality in your face all the time, like they're coming up to you on the street. He's allowed to express himself that way in his art. I mean, that's the beauty of self-expression. You can make it very accurate to who you are so that people can see it and have a good idea of who you are. So yeah, those people that were rooting for him until all the gay stuff, and granted, I don't know that this is exactly what he meant by it, but I don't know, it feels like it. Yeah, you really were not rooting for him. If you were rooting for him until the gay stuff came along, you were rooting for who you thought he was, but, I mean, you weren't really rooting for him. And I don't know that we ever, by that strand of logic, I don't know that we ever really can root for anybody for who they actually are, because we never really know who anybody is. But I think as far as him saying that, I think that's just a beautiful way to put it. And the reason why that line resonates with me, you was never really rooting for me anyway, is that I feel like I am always risking friendships by being creative, by having my silly little rap and comedy videos up on my Instagram. That makes me nervous. It makes me nervous about meeting new people who think that I'm cool and I'm giving them like a nice vibe, and then they go to my Instagram and they see all this weird, wacky art that I make that honestly, I still keep a lot of it hidden. But I do have some of it on my Instagram, and I always consider taking it down. But yeah, but at the same time, I mean, if you're gonna reject me when you see that, you was never really rooting for me anyway. And I mean, people, not even people that I meet today, people that I've known for a long time. I was worried really about losing friends when I started doing my internet rapper thing a few years ago that I talked about. And I'm still worried that about, you know, not getting invited to dinner parties that... The thing is, who the heck do I know that's hosting a dinner party these days? Especially in the wake of the pandemic. I do get worried about not being invited to stuff because I don't have a real presentable job if I follow the path of being an artist. But first of all, if I can make being an artist my primary vocation, like even just like make a solid 40 grand a year, but like all that what I do every single day I can count on being art, that would be magnificent. And at that point, to heck with everybody else. But it's when you're in that awkward phase of, I have a real job, you know, and I'm also pursuing my art thing, and, you know, anytime that I spend doing the art, it's energy that I'm taking away from my real job, and I'm just like in this awkward middle ground. That's the place where it feels really worrisome, and it feels a lot safer to just stray toward the real job and just be like, yes, this is a safe, secure thing that I'll do for the rest of my life, and people will accept me for it. The thing is, though, most people don't really care about me. And like, if it's that big of a problem for them, they didn't really care about me that much to begin with, did they? And especially... through art, I express myself realer than I probably express myself right to your face. When I meet a new person, I reel them in with this best version of myself. This image of the best version of myself that's witty and clever and to their mind doesn't make much mistakes and like has his stuff together. That's at least the image I want to put forth, and I'm not sure how well I put that on. You could probably see little cracks in it. But every time that I express myself super honestly, I'm worried that I'm letting those people down because they don't get to sit with this perfect image of me anymore. And what I also need to remind myself is most people are not judging me in that way. But we know, I mean, everybody knows, you're always going to disappoint somebody with every major life decision that you make. And you just have to make life decisions and expression that's as real to your highest being as you can get it. And yeah, if people don't like it, I heard it said in, it was a book called The Linchpin by Seth Godin. He says, I'm going to make a very rash statement here. Like, when you start pursuing what you want, if you lose some people that you love, they didn't really love you in the first place. And that's a really brutal smack in the face. Because you probably grew very attached to and used to a lot of those people. And you're going to lose a lot when you start being who you really are. Not everybody. And whoever's left probably rocks pretty hard. And they probably have been rooting for you from the moment that they met you. So this next spot, it's actually tied between two songs because they both work for me in the same way. The songs are Wichita Lineman by Glenn Campbell and God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. And in Wichita Lineman, the line that I love is, he says, and I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. I just love that because it leads you with, wait, that's a weird phrasing. Where were you going? Oh, well now that's really sweet. When he says, I need you more than I want you, you're like, what the heck does that mean? Like, that sounds, at first hearing, like that's a mediocre relationship that you're just in because it's like necessary at this point. Is somebody holding you hostage to be in this relationship? Or is it a long like marriage that has gone really sour, but you've just made so many life commitments together that you just really need that person to stick with you because who the heck else are you gonna find? But no, that's not what the song's about at all. In fact, it's about a very, very lonely man. I mean, he works on a lineman. He works on a power line. It's literally about a lineman. And yeah, that's just a Glenn Campbell. I don't know if it was Glenn Campbell who wrote it. I think it was, but he said that like he saw a guy working on the power lines and it just seemed like the perfect vision of loneliness. And so the whole song is about that loneliness you feel, especially when you're longing for somebody. I don't know about you, but when I decide that I really, really like somebody and I really want them to be romantically involved with me, I suddenly get lonelier and needier than ever. It's both this fantastic rush of endorphins and the fact that it's not been released yet. I mean, I don't know how else to put it but loneliness. I mean, excitement is coupled in there, but it's a lonely excitement. But yeah, I just like that little twist he puts on it. I need you more than want you. What? And I want you for all time. Oh! So you're saying you want the person forever and always. And somehow how much you need them is more than that? Like you want them a whole heckin' lot, and you need them an even bigger whole heckin' lot. Aw. I just love that kind of stuff. When I'm like, it makes me go, huh, that was the, oh. There's that meme. They had us in the first half, not gonna lie, with that football player who's talking about his win, like his comeback. I think it was just a high school game, maybe a college game. Anyway, you'll find it if you just search those words. They had us in the first half, not gonna lie. It's a lot more fulfilling when it ends when it goes in a direction that you like when you've expected it to go in a dour direction. When it can it works that way in movies too. When I legitimately was expecting something really depressing to happen or to end on a really depressing note, and then it just gives you, nope, here's a happier ending than you were expecting. Aw, I like that. I don't so much like it when it's the opposite way, that I think it's about to end super happy and then it ends depressing. I can respect it for the fact that I didn't see that depressing ending coming, but it does make the depression feel stronger that I wasn't expecting it. I'd rather it be the other way. Oh, I'm sad because, I need you more than I want you. But I want you for all time. And then the other song, God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. I mean, it's just the opening line. I just think it's a brilliant way to open a song. I may not always love you. What? What kind of a love song starts with I may not always love you? Huh? You're already giving some indication that this is temporary, and okay, maybe that might be more realistic in a lot of situations, given the divorce rate, but at the same time, it's like, why would you start the song why would you say that to a woman that you're trying to win over with your lovely romantic words? I may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you, you never need to doubt it. Aww. Again, you had me in the first half, man. I didn't see what you were going for quite right away, but now that I see that was, again, it's just a really good little fake out that you think he's saying something kind of depressing. And he's not. He's saying something especially lovely. From what I understand, I don't remember if it was Brian Wilson, somebody in the Beach Boys, or maybe it was even the producer. You can see that I researched the stories of these songs super well, but somebody didn't like that it opened that way. I may not always love you. They immediately heard, they're like, we're not putting this on the radio. People, that's gonna depress people. They're like, keep listening. And I think that's just a testament to what a good songwriter Brian Wilson is. I mean, he still wrote stuff within the confines of, pop music, American pop music at the time, but he did it with just the slightest twist of, I mean, he's a weird dude. He's a weird dude. He's still alive, right? It's okay that I say he is a weird dude instead of he was a weird dude. He still just had to find a little bit of an alternate way of saying things. I praised Hobo Johnson and the Smiths, and I mean, I can think of some other songwriters. One might even come up later in this list, who do a really good job of just saying stuff bluntly but originally. He echoes old-timey sentiments with like just a weird little flair to it. Yeah, I may not always love you, but as long as there are stars above you, you never need to doubt it. It feels like there's a little bit of dry humor in there too. Like, I mean, I may not always love you. I mean, like, just till, we're dead and, long beyond that. Whatever. Whenever there are no longer stars in the sky above us, then I might stop loving you. So then you have to be concerned. It feels like a really playful way that people talk too. That's a way that I would talk to somebody that I was romantically interested in. I'd lead them on to make it sound like I was saying something mean, and then I just pivot and be like, no, I'm actually sweet. My name's Joe and I'm sweet. Nice to meet you. I'm thinking about changing my middle name to Lollipop, because I'm just that sweet. Like that song, which is not on this list by a long shot. Lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop. That was supposed to be a pop sound. Didn't really work though. Yeah, I just love both of those. Give you some indication that what I'm saying is negative, and then that makes the little twist I give it in the upward direction all the more positive. I think that's a brilliant songwriting tactic, especially as it pertains to love. Alright, so up next we got the song Drunk Drivers, Killer Whales by Car Seat Headrest. Car Seat Headrest is another one that I just think he's such a good songwriter. His name's Will Toledo, the guy's real name. He's just such a good songwriter, and it's easy to, when you first listen to him, to think that it's just another indie group. And look, I love indie rock, I love indie pop, even stuff that's not particularly good. I just like the aesthetic, especially like in the lo-fi. I'm easy to entertain. You can jingle your lo-fi keys in front of my face and I'll sit there like, thank you, I'll take more please. But really, but I mean, that's why I am such a big fan of car seat headrest, is that, like, they already had me on their string with just the sound of their music. I feel like it's mostly just Will Toledo's project, but I could be wrong about that, not to insult anybody else in the band. But I know he's the one who kind of started up the whole thing. It started off as just an internet project. But that's, like, you already had me with just kind of a cool vibe of a song. And then I really listened to your lyrics and I loved it even more. I love when that's sort of sitting, when that, it's like a multi-level gift, you know? Anyway, the line is, it's in Drunk Drivers, which is literally a song about drunk drivers. He says, I'm just trying, we're only trying to get home. I'm just trying to get home. And I like that it works on two different levels where, like, it's relatable. If you've ever, okay, I have driven, I don't know that I've ever really driven drunk. I've driven after having a beer or something like that. But, I mean, I've driven too high before. I've done it. Okay? I've done it. I've driven too high before. And the reason why I'm driving high is almost always like, I was hanging out with somebody, we did something, and I didn't really plan ahead too much, and I still needed to get home, you know, because I had to work the next day or something else I needed to take care of the next day. Pretty much the only place where I've ever been headed when I was under the influence and driving and really concerned, you know, like so under the influence that I'm like nervous, am I getting home safely tonight? All I'm ever trying to do is get home. And I mean, like he says in the song, dude, there are so many parts of the songs that I wanted to put. I could honestly just put this whole song as a lyric that I love. But I mean, it just is the main chorus. I'm just trying, we're only trying to get home. Like, look, we're not proud of what we're doing when we do this. And we shouldn't be doing it. But at least understand that we're not having a good time while we're doing it. We're just trying to get home. So, I mean, it works in that physical sense, in that, or physical, the literal sense for me. But then I also like, there's something about we're just trying to get home. Like, it sounds like gives me this impression of we're just trying to find a safe place in life. We're just trying to find a safe, firm ground to stand on. And maybe, again, maybe that's not what he meant, but it just, man, I'm just trying to get home. And I mean, again, not to bring it back to the Smiths again. I'm honestly not even a big Smiths listener. So, I mean, I'm not going to fanboy the crap out of them, but like how he says, you know, I never want to go home because I haven't got one. There's something about people driving home drunk, there's a real feeling of just being lost when you're in a situation like that. This like very irresponsible situation that you put yourself in. And you're probably coming home from a party or something, you know, you went out with some people, and who can convince you to do something that you really shouldn't logically be doing, but people that you're trying to impress? A lot of the time it's because it's your way of enjoying other people. Or not even always enjoying, just being okay around other people. It's your way of sedating yourself to get away from the roaring social anxiety or the fear that, like, I'm here wasting my time and none of this really matters. And so I find myself at the end of the night doing something extremely illegal and extremely dangerous. Because this is just the situation I'm in life. I don't have anything better to do than to, you know, hang out with these people and get really messed up and then get in this really dangerous situation. And I mean, the image of you're just trying to get home. I'm just trying to get home. I'm just trying to get home. It's like I'm just trying to get to the safe place. I'm just trying to get to the safe place because I feel very, very unsafe right now. And I mean, gosh, do I ever feel that way all the time? Not even in the literal sense of I'm drunk driving. It's just being around people. It's like I'm just constantly planning, like, a lot of the time after a half an hour of being around other people, my mind's in the next place that I'm going to be. How am I going to escape this situation around people in order to get to a place where I can just be by myself? That's a question I'm asking myself constantly. It's not because I hate people. I don't hate people. People just scare me. And I think people scare a lot of people. Just the concept of other people being around. To see everything that you do is really nerve-wracking. Yeah. I'm just trying to get home. And so I'm sorry if I'm acting like a fool around you, or I say or do something that offends you or whatever. My mind right now is just on how to get home. How to get to my safe place. What we call at camp our comfort zone. When we talk about telling kids to challenge themselves, you know, there's your comfort zone, and then there's your learning zone, where you push yourself just a little bit outside of your comfort zone and like really feel like you grew something. And then there's your danger zone, where you push yourself way too far, and sometimes even something literally stupid and dangerous that like could kill you. Yeah. In order to, so I'd say if my comfort zone is being alone, my learning zone is being around other people, and then sometimes in order to really feel like I got them, you know, I got the full other people experience, I have to enter my danger zone by getting way too under the influence of something. That's the danger zone. Gosh, I don't like the song Highway to the Danger Zone, and I don't like the movie Top Gun at all. It's extremely boring. Screw that movie. It's just a bad romance before anything else. Alright, and my last lyric on here. And who else could say something so incredibly poignant that it just resonates with adults and children alike? I've never met anybody who doesn't like this song. Rainbow Connection by Kermit the Frog. And it's literally, I mean, it's just the chorus. Someday we'll find it. The Rainbow Connection. The lovers, the dreamers, and me. That's not the part I'm going to talk about, but gosh, someday we'll find it, first of all. That already just says so much by how little it says it's so universal. Someday we'll find it. Because we're all searching for something. And sometimes that searching is just immeasurably unsatisfying. I think the human nature is to be extremely discontented with what's around us, because it keeps us striving for more. The problem is we don't necessarily know what it is that we're looking for in our life endeavors. And this line became so much more important to me a couple of years ago when I was still pretty fresh out of college and entering the real work, you know, the real employment world, and just questioning constantly, what am I trying to get out of being here right now? And if it's just existing, what am I trying to get out of existing? Am I just going to play like the employment game, or am I going to focus hardcore on my art? Or hey, when I started learning about spiritual texts and learning about these amazing, fantastical experiences that monks and other, you know, like yogis and stuff were having in their pursuit of enlightenment, like maybe that's what I want to follow. Maybe I want to find something magical that's completely apart from all of the rest of society. But then, I don't know, because I also want to make my art and I want to express myself. And then I also would like to have, a stable job and a 401k and health insurance and stuff. Can I just have everything? I guess I can't really have everything, but which one do I start pursuing now? I don't want to pursue something wrong right now, because if I realize that it's wrong 5 years down the line, I went this direction, oh, well now this direction's closed off, or this direction's closed off. Oh don't even know how long we have left of this world. Every single day is a massive existential crisis to me. I don't know what is going on right now. I don't even really know who I am. I don't know what I like. I don't even know if I like anything. I don't know what I want. Is wanting itself just the problem? Can somebody just give me an answer? What is it? And the answer is just, someday we'll find it. And it's very, very far from today, probably. Especially at the young age of 26, or when I was thinking this at the age of 23. But I just kept hearing that in my head, and it was just very reassuring. That someday we'll find it. Someday I'll just have all my answers. I don't know that I'll ever have universal answers. I can try. But I'll at least have all of my answers. I'll really, really know myself, just like front and back. And I'll just fully accept all those things about myself someday. And my understanding myself through it, I feel like I'll understand the world even better. And I'm very, very far from knowing any of those things right now. And it's by definition, like, I don't know what I don't know. And that's very, very frustrating. I'm sort of I'm at the conscious incompetent level of existence. I'm incompetent at being a true actualized version of who I am. And I'm aware of that. I remember first reading a couple of self-help books, and after those two being like, that's it, I got it. I know how to operate this funky world. But someday we'll find it. And I like the image of the rainbow connection too. I've never really had a day when I looked at a rainbow in complete stupefaction, is that the word? When it's completely stupefied me, mainly because the way that rainbows are depicted in the media, in cartoons and movies and stuff, like when they're CGI and crap. In my opinion, they usually look better than real rainbows, at least in the Northwest, I don't know. You can hardly even see rainbows most of the time here because it needs to have been raining and then the day needed to get clearer. And that doesn't happen all that often where it gets so clear that you can see this beautifully, fully formed rainbow. So I don't necessarily relate to rainbows themselves that hard. It's just not one of those natural images that always, it's not one of my personal wonders. But I do like the rainbow connection in terms of the way that I and that thing way off in the distance that I can't even touch if I got all the way up to it. The way that we're connected. And that just gets back to a very spiritual, metaphysical sort of just overall feeling I am that. I am one with everything somehow. I don't fully understand how that is, and I don't always experience it to the fullest degree, but I've had experiences of feeling more like that, where I really got the sense that this is that and that is this, and I am all of it somehow. Someday we'll really be able to put our finger on how intertwined we are with everything. And the main thing I love about it also is just the certainty of it. But someday we'll find it. It's not a someday we might find it, or I hope we find it. It's just someday we will. If we have the determination to, and we just don't give up searching. A lot of people do give up searching. But we, lovers, dreamers, and me, we're not going to be those people that give up searching. And so we'll find it. And there will be immeasurable suffering and dissatisfaction along the way. But someday we'll find it. And we'll be okay. What I love about that song, again, this is another songwriting story that I can't quite tell you the full facts on. You're going to have to Wikipedia it. From what I understand, when they were writing the song, I guess it was like two guys, and they were really frustrated because they wanted to make the song somehow have to do with rainbows, but it wasn't really going in that direction. And then somebody just said, like, we're having a hard time finding the rainbow connection. And then that was it. I love stories of how song lyrics came out. Usually the stories just suddenly, it just came out of nowhere. When we weren't even really thinking about, when we weren't like hard pressing our brain to get it out. That's just how it always goes. It just comes to you out of nowhere and you're like, man, that's great. And you just say, when you think of a song lyric that you really love, oh gosh, you just say it over and over again to yourself. Especially if you already know the rhythm, like the meter of how you want it to come out, or if it's a melody, you know, how it's gonna flow. Go up and down. Gosh, when you get the song lyric that you really were looking for, it's literal auditory porn. It's amazing. It is auditory porn. When you come up with a good song lyric, and it's yours too. It's yours. But you also have to remember that it's close to you, but it isn't technically yours. I mean, it belongs to the creative muse, and she can easily strike somebody else with a similar sounding lyric, or maybe the exact same lyric, who knows. You're not ever going to come up with a fully original thought or phrase or anything like that, but you're always going to have it in just the most original way, because it's just you, and you are an exceptionally original person. Dude, this is one thing that I get really mad about when I listen to like anarchists and stuff, and like nihilists who talk about like, none of you are special. Like what Tyler Durden says to the guys who are working on his house. What is it, Project Mayhem? Like, God does not love you. He does not think you are special. You know, you are not a unique snowflake or anything like that. It's like, yeah, you are. You are. And you, actually, here's the thing. You don't have any decision over it. You are completely one of a kind and original and special. That doesn't mean that you express yourself in the most original way. And that's because a lot of you don't express the most honest version of yourself. And if you did, it would have no choice but to be extremely unique. Yeah. And I mean, I'm fully putting myself in there. I feel like I do express myself fairly closer and closer each year to who I actually am. But then a year later, I know that like what I'm talking about now is gonna sound completely naive to future me, who's gonna be like, Joe, you didn't know quite as much as you thought you did. And the fact that we're always changing. There's some ever-present part of us, even through all these iterations of ourselves that come along. But there is something that stays consistent about us. And you can't put any word on it. You can't put any name or physical like image upon it. You can't really label what that ever-present part of you is throughout your life. It's the rainbow connection. Whew. Oh, man, anyway, I've sort of waxed metaphysical for the past, I don't know. It's fun, though. It's very, very fun just letting my mouth just go. And my brain is kind of taking a backseat, even judging some of the things that I say, like, man, you're really going to regret going on this diatribe. You're going to sound like some hippie weirdo who's done too many hallucinogens in his life. I've never done hallucinogens, actually, so they're there. Not really by choice, though. Do you have any? I'd like to buy some. For all future employers, that was a joke. That was a joke. I am a good Mormon, and I don't even drink caffeine. I didn't even drink the 4 or 5 cups of coffee that I drank today. So there you go. I love in the acting class that I'm in, a guy pointed out that part of the reason why he thinks that sometimes I'm just myself, like I'm the same person playing all these different characters, is because there's very much a rhythm to my voice and there's sort of a cadence that I follow. And my teacher said, I mean, yeah, he's very lyrical. And that was really cool to hear. Like, even when I'm not trying to be, I still got that musical impulse in me. It's still propelling me toward make it funky, you know, give your syllables some like little jive to them, and in the specific words too, like, ooh, you put that in like that. That was just a very good way of phrasing it. You could have phrased it this very cookie cutter way, but you didn't, and that's awesome. I get worried. Am I really a lyricist? You know, I worry about everything. Am I really? Yes. Yes, you are. If you're asking that question, then yes, you are. If you were a phony, then you would have perfect confidence about it. Yeah. You'd be wildly self-confident. Again, man, as they say in the War of Art, I don't want to keep quoting that book every single video, but that's just it. But yeah, I think I'll do more videos like this. I mean, honestly, I could have gone in depth with a lot of these songs, because lyricists don't usually, like, people who write one good lyric that I love, it's not usually just one. They usually write tons. I mean, yeah, so, I mean, every single one of these songs, there was not just that one line that I liked about it. There were tons of great lines in all those songs. But, yeah. Lyrics are really important to me, so I think I will keep making these videos. Maybe want to have it just a little bit more organized than this video, and I still haven't figured out... I've been taking 10 minutes at the beginning and at the end to just talk about whatever I want to, even if it doesn't directly have to do with what I made the video about. I'm wondering if I should shorten that down to like 8 minutes or 5 minutes, so I might play around with that a little bit. But I just don't want to... I don't want to get back into doing it totally freeform, but I also don't want to lay it out perfectly lockstep. I'm talking about this at this minute, and this at this minute, and this at this minute, because neither one of those is really going to be fun for me or a very entertaining video, probably. But yeah, I'm filming this on a Tuesday, and this will be going up on Sunday. So when you first see this video, I am 5 days older than I was when I made this. And I think I'm probably going to try to film another video before Sunday too, and then schedule it for the Sunday after. Yeah. Exciting stuff I talk about when I'm out of things to say. I'm a little overwhelmed right now. A lot of it by good things, but I'm overwhelmed nonetheless. And I don't quite know how to deal with it. At the end of everything, you can breathe. When all else fails, you can just take a breath. I really appreciate that YouTube is a thing. I love that I live in a time with the internet. Yeah. and that I have this platform to say whatever I want to and have it out there where anybody can see it. And I can leave it there forever if I want to. And it's cool just being me.